What's going on, everybody? It's Lance Hayes with Sports Social Live, and we are talking about David Benavidez pummeling, pummeling, making Demetrius Andrade's team call it in the corner this last weekend. Gonna recap the fight a little bit, then get into the future for David the Monster Benavidez, and this and more on Sports Social Live. Let's get it. What's going on, everybody? It's Lance Hayes with Sports Social Live, and I'm excited to talk about the monster, David Benavidez, pummeling Demetrius Andrade. But I want to give Andrade some credit. He stepped up in competition, stepped up in weight, went to take on David Benavidez, and he was a warrior in the ring. But ultimately, it was just it was too much. Not even a little too much, it was too much from round one to the end. It looked like Andrade had a little bit of pop, had some juice, looked good and crisp, but ultimately, that's what everybody does against Benavidez, and it showed. Benavidez came out and ended up finishing him down the stretch. So shout out to Andrade for taking the challenge. He wanted to get his name out there. He deserved the big fight. 15 years going off of the Olympian wave, and he was just in a bad place in business. So you can't knock him for taking that challenge. You can't knock any fighter that gets in the ring, first of all. I'm a fan. I like what these guys are doing. They're putting their lives on the line. This is for their family. This is how they eat. So shout out to him for getting in the ring, taking on David Benavidez, and taking the opportunity to kind of remove that stain from as a stain of boxing business from his name. You can't knock the guy. He was a warrior in there. And I hope he gets another shot on some type of card. I mean, I would like to see him against Plant. I like to see him against just any other top guy, Charlo possibly. I want to see him back in the ring. Shout out to you, Andrade. But I'm gonna scoop my chair up. Let's get it. Let's talk about David Benavidez and that fight. You got to give the guy credit for what he did and how he goes out in the ring. First and foremost, I want to get this off my chest because I feel like people are playing with David Benavidez. Do not play with David Benavidez' athleticism. Just because he's taller than most of the fighters he's fighting, just because he looks a little awkward, he has athleticism. He has athleticism. He was in the ring, stopping, cutting off the ring. One, takes some talent. We saw that when you can't cut off the ring, it makes for a stale and boring fight. Shakur, as much talent as he has, he struggled cutting off the ring. Well, people struggle cutting off the ring with him, and sometimes they struggle. He struggles sometimes cutting off the ring from people. It's a talent. David Benavidez is able to do that against talented, swift, crafty boxers. Shout out to David Benavidez and his athleticism. One thing I also like to give David Benavidez, and it took me a little time to put these thoughts together, see people talking, but I have to give David Benavidez credit for maturing as a man personally. I think that people forget his issues that he had previously before, and you can tell that he's locked in, focused. He missed weight before, had the issues with the sanctioned bodies, drug tests, or whatever it may be. But you can clearly see the work that he's putting in, and that he's focused and taking care of his family, focused on taking care of his boxing business and the craft as a whole. So the work that he's putting in is translating into the ring. He takes the monster name seriously. As you seen him get out the ring, hug Mike Tyson immediately after the fight. He takes all the accolades he has seriously, and you can't, as a fan, you have to respect that. And I respect him for the maturity and just, you see he's a good dad. You see he's working with his family. He's putting his brothers on card, and his brother, that bond that they created and the work ethic that they've created has translated into success in the ring, and hopefully he gets that payday going forward when I mention what's going on next. Benavidez is good. He's cold, man. He's a monster, and the volume that he puts out is efficient volume. It's thudding. It's ferocious. It's monstrous. It's damaging, and it should have got Plant out earlier. I think he should have got Plant out. I think the ref saved Plant a little bit. The ref let Plant hold. He was falling for dear life. The fight could have been called off, and we would have been fine with that. So the damage that David Benavidez does is not just some lumbering around damage. It's a mature volume that comes efficiently. And he's stunning, he's damaging. Then he does the quick combos. He does the things that he has to do. He cuts off the ring appropriately. When Andrade tried to spin around, he caught on wind of that going into the second round. I think he started timing all the things that Demetrius Boo Boo tried to do. And he was able to go back to his game plan, didn't change. He increased the volume, his pacing ascended as it got on. And thirdly, I like to give him credit for being able to close out a fight. I think that's something that you have to do as an athlete, is to know when to finish people. Letting people stay around, letting people go. You don't get paid for extra rounds. So letting people just linger around is a recipe for disaster in any sport, in any competition. When you let somebody stay around, anything can happen. So his closing ability, his ability to sense when he has somebody hurt, and he steps it up, and you see what he does. He'll throw those combos early in the fight, but when it's time to close, he starts getting methodical and efficient with that closing flurry, and it is nice to see. And he's punching down at most fighters, which is kind of interesting. He's punching down at most fighters, so he conserves a lot of that energy as well, because he's not really moving a lot to do it. He closes the range and he's just thumping efficiently. So shout out to him. I think Andrade used the ring well earlier in round one. And then he kind of finished with David B finished with a flurry in round one. That kind of sparked my mind. I was like, okay, he has a plan. Andrade got off a few flurries to come out the gate in round two, but after that, he spun Benavidez. Then after that, he kind of everything went to Benavidez. It was just all Benavidez from there on, and you just see after that first damaging hit, it was a time for Andrade, and ultimately his corner stopped it on the stool. It looked like Andrade stopped it too. It was kind of weird, but ultimately the fight was stopped on the stool, and it was a great success for David Benavidez and a great success for fans. You had to, let's give credit for the Showtime, one of the last Showtime cards, 37 years in a boxing game. Giving credit for Matias stopping Ergashev on the stool, Lamont Roach getting an upset victory over Hector Luis Garcia, Jamal Charlo coming out there avenging his battles from mental health. The card had so many storylines go on, so it was an exciting card to say the least. And then you top it off with a phenomenal performance from David Benavidez pummeling Demetrius Andrade. I am not mad at the card at all. But now we have to do something. We have to talk about what's going to go on next. We're not going to sit here and mess up and act like we don't know the elephant in the room, or the king in the room, or the lion in the room. We have to see what's going to go on next. Does David shy away from competition? I don't think so. He's been waiting. He's been a mandatory. He's been in the spotlight at an early age. Does he shy away from competition? Hell no. I don't see it happening. So who do you want to see him against next? He already mentioned that if one guy doesn't do it, another guy, he'll go up and fight another guy. He has a frame to do it. I don't see any issues with it. So let's talk about it. Do you see David taking on Canelo? The King Canelo. Do you see him getting in the ring with Canelo? I see David going to fight Canelo. Do I see Canelo coming back and fighting with David B? I don't know. A young Canelo, maybe. But Canelo's legacy is already set. I've been a Canelo naysayer before, but at that last Charlo fight, it seemed like he was revitalized. So I was kind of riding the Canelo wave right there, because he looked like he was more in shape. He looked more focused than he had been in previous years. So shout out to that Canelo on that fight. But seeing David Benavidez come back and have this monstrous fight, Canelo's at a older age. Does Canelo want to get in there and deal with that? I don't know. What I will say is the fight will be better than people give Canelo credit for. I think people are riding the David Benavidez high a lot and saying that Canelo would be scared, but Canelo possesses exactly what David Benavidez possesses, but with a little more head movement, right? The flurries that David Benavidez catches people with will be one, hit with pressure. That pressure will still out, I believe. And two, Canelo's head movement and the shots that he throws will kind of put David Benavidez back, in my opinion. So it's not like Canelo has anything. I don't believe Canelo has anything to truly be afraid of. Like, why would he not get in there? He's seen that before. And it's a big payday. But it will be a test, and will Canelo want to get that test out before retirement when your legacy is already set? We'll see. He's a warrior. We're going to see. But David B wants to fight. It's all up to Canelo. He chooses the shots. He's the shot caller. He's the cash cow. He's a star. What will Canelo want to do? I think Canelo would take the fight, but they talk about he's working with Jaime Munguia. I do not want to see a Jaime Munguia fight. I think Jaime Munguia needs to go back. And that Derevchenko fight was amazing. One, he showed me a test of will in that 12th round, but I don't want to see the fight. Don't want to see Jaime Munguia. Don't want to see Edgar Berlanga. We all know what those fights. Me, David B. Bevel. Does he go up and get Bevel? David Benavidez is confident that he smashes Bevel. I like Bevel. I like what he did against Canelo. I just like that crisp, thudding jab with the athleticism. I think Bevel was mismanaged, and the Russia situation and whatever it may be in the back end. Business of boxing got to Bevel. He hasn't been in the ring. Hopefully, this December 23rd card, he shows out and puts on something, and we can get a good fight out of Bevel in 2024. But I do want to see Bevel in the ring with Canelo or David Benavidez. That is what I want to see. Hopefully, we can get that. I think Bevel will make the fight with David B. David B will make the fight with Bevel. So, do we see that next? Let me know down in the comments. But one of the fights I think on the back end people aren't really talking about, does Charlo fight David B, the monster? I think Charlo needs to step up to 168. This is my thing for Charlo. Step up to 168. He showed that he can come back. 3 weeks in training camp. He didn't really do as much as he wanted to, but I think Jose Benavidez was allowed him to get the rounds in. I'm not mad at that. We know Jose Benavidez came up in weight. Jose Benavidez is not on a talent on the same plane as Charlo. I know. All the caveats aside, Charlo avenged his mental health fiasco. His mental health dealings back in the ring. Hopefully he gets serious. Hopefully he's rejuvenated. I think he needs another fight at 168. Stay away from the super top tier, the top 4, top 5. Get maybe a Edgar Berlanga type fight. I can see him going to get Jaime Munguia. Charlo will be successful in those fights and be fine. I'm not worried about stuff like that. So, hey, Charlo, go get you a Jaime Munguia, Edgar Berlanga. Stay away from Diego Pacheco. Stay away from Diego Pacheco and David Morrell. You don't need that, even though I think he can. David Morrell still kind of needs some work. That's what I'm hearing. But I want Charlo to kind of take one of those Berlanga fights. I'm not saying Berlanga's easy. They're all fighters, but I think Charlo, will do fine against Berlanga with a good camp. I think he does fine against Munguia with a good camp. I think Munguia gets a hype job, but he showed me heart last fight. Does David Benavidez get Charlo in the fall of 2024? That'd be dope. Good for Charlo. Hopefully Canelo doesn't take Charlo in May. I don't want Charlo to fight Canelo next. But that's just me personally as a fan of Charlo. But I'm not Charlo's wallet. I'm not Charlo's family. So I'm sure that if the Canelo fight comes, he'll take it. But hopefully Canelo goes straight for David Benavidez and we get the matchup that everybody wants to see. We get that Mexican warrior versus the Ecuadorian and Mexican warrior. I don't know the nationality of David Benavidez, but I think it's Ecuadorian. So hopefully we get that monster, that warrior and that monster collide, and we get a massive fight in the end for fans. And it looks like it's going to be on show. It looks like it's gonna be on PBC, Amazon Prime. Hey, when that news breaks, it's gonna be a big deal. It looks like it's already a done deal. But PBC on Amazon Prime across the world at a flat rate, gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. Let me know what you think about this boxing. Let me know what you thought about the David Benavidez fight. Let me know, as a boxing fan, who's your number one fighter? Who wins out of Canelo versus David Benavidez? Drop some comments below. I'm Lance Hayes, Sports Social Live. We do everything from boxing to football and back. Let's get it.